In 1994, the USS Montana, a vessel in the American Navy, sank with a load of US military armaments on board. As the ship descended, it encountered the Mariana Trench, situated between the United States and Russia. Amidst its plunge, an uncommon burst of light was witnessed, a phenomenon unfamiliar to the crew, just before the ship vanished beneath the ocean's surface. The ship's state rapidly worsened, compelling the captain to seek aid from the government, but the communication systems were failing. As tensions mount, we are introduced to Lindsay, the central figure in the film, who is a member of an American Marine team. Lindsay finds herself on a helicopter where the captain reveals footage of the sinking vessel. The seriousness of the situation becomes evident. The ship is transporting nuclear weapons, and if these were to fall into Russian hands, it could provoke significant diplomatic strains and potentially spark conflict between the two nations. The imperative to keep this information hidden is paramount, given that its exposure could upset international relations. Lindsay agrees to help with the operation, but they quickly discover that the task is more complex than anticipated. Successfully navigating the ocean demands the skills and knowledge of experienced professionals to ensure the recovery mission is both effective and safe. In the area where oil is located, beneath the sea, a private oil drilling company is active. A team from the American government has reached out to this company for assistance, as a potential oil leak poses a threat that could have widespread global repercussions. It is crucial that the situation is addressed promptly and with a degree of confidentiality. The American Marine team has been deployed, and they are seeking the oil company's cooperation to carry out the mission. However, when they approach the oil workers, they encounter some hesitation. The journey is perilous, and there are serious risks to life involved. As the workers voice their concerns, the conversation shifts to the topic of compensation, specifically how much they would receive for a day's work. An enticing offer of 3 months' salary for just 1 day's labor captures their interest. As they consider the offer, it becomes evident that a key figure in the group is Bert, the leader of the oil drilling team and the main character of the film. Bert looks over his colleagues and firmly declares that he cannot take part in the mission, stressing that it involves the safety of many individuals. His refusal incites frustration among the others, who emphasize the financial reward, reminding him of the enticing offer of 3 months' salary for just 1 day's work. Bert finds himself in a difficult position, grappling with his choice. He soon realizes that one of the members of the American Sea Team is Lindsay, his ex-wife. They had once been married and lived together, but their relationship deteriorated due to constant arguments. Now that he knows she will be involved in the mission, Bert feels a compelling sense of responsibility to accept the assignment. With this new understanding, Bert decides to proceed with the mission. They begin preparations, and a large ship is stationed above the site, where the operation is set to occur. A crane will be suspended from the large ship, ready to be lowered to the submarine below, providing essential support for the operation. There are small teams working in all the submarines. When Lindsay arrives on the big ship, she immediately checks to ensure everything is in order. However, her ex-husband Bert avoids making eye contact with her. He intends to speak to her amicably, but she seems indifferent, focused solely on her work. Lindsay makes it clear that she is there to fulfill her professional duties, not to engage in any personal drama. She implies that she would prefer to avoid any conversation with him, and Bert, despite his desire to reconnect, finds himself disregarded. He grapples with the reality of their divorce, reflecting on how they allowed minor misunderstandings to drive them apart. As they interact, Lindsay's indifference weighs heavily on Bert. In a moment of frustration, he notices the wedding ring on his hand, a reminder of their past. In a symbolic gesture, he removes the ring and tosses it into the toilet, symbolizing his emotional turmoil and the memories associated with it. This act highlights the depth of his feelings for her, despite their separation. Meanwhile, the team's attention returns to the mission, with a clear reminder that their main goal is to recover the nuclear weapon. Although everyone is generally ready, the challenges of the mission are formidable. The deep-sea environment, characterized by high pressure, presents significant risks that necessitate the use of oxygen cylinders. To manage the conditions underwater, the team will employ a substance known as oxygenated fluorocarbon, which functions similarly to oxygen but is in liquid form. They are instructed to pay close attention to a white line within the tube, which indicates the correct usage of this material. As they prepare to dive into the depths, they are cautioned about the health risks associated with pressure changes, which can be harmful. It is essential for them to remain calm. Any panic could lead to rapid breathing, which might have fatal repercussions. Instead, if they can maintain their composure and proceed at a measured pace, the oxygenated fluorocarbon will adequately support their breathing throughout the mission. In a short time, the heart and lungs will adjust to the new conditions, leading to a change in the atmosphere. This adjustment is driven by the energy from the oxygenated fluorocarbon liquid, which may initially create a sensation of suffocation as they enter the water. However, as they become accustomed to the environment, their ability to breathe will gradually improve. This is the primary purpose of the liquid they will be using. All team members are equipped and prepared to dive into the sea. It is crucial to remain patient and calm, as the underwater environment can be extremely challenging. They understand that survival during the descent is uncertain, with the likelihood that many may not make it. If they do come across anyone still alive, it will be an unusual event, as the harsh conditions of the sea often lead to death and oblivion. This situation heightens anxiety for some, especially for one friend who is starting to experience a mild panic attack. Noticing his distress, Bert asks, "Did something happen to you? You seem anxious. Just stay here, I'll go down and come back." He instructs his friend to tie a rope around his waist for safety as he prepares to dive. As Bert enters the water, his friend holds the light and expresses a desire to follow him. He secures a rope around himself, preparing to dive deeper. However, unexpectedly, the rope becomes entangled about 20 kilometers down. Although the initial plan was to release it, anxiety begins to take hold as he realizes he is trapped. Bert notices his friend becoming increasingly panicked and understands that he must take swift action to help. Suddenly, Bert sees a light in the water that resembles a jellyfish. As it draws closer, he becomes mesmerized by its glow. Meanwhile, Lindsay is struggling and may be on the verge of slipping into a coma due to a lack of oxygen. Medical professionals would later confirm that her condition is critical, emphasizing the urgency of bringing her back to the surface as soon as possible to save her. In a desperate situation, some team members consider using video conferencing to communicate with her via email. They discuss the experiences of those who managed to escape from the ship, sharing their accounts. However, this information only intensifies the anxiety among the crew. They are worried that if the Russians become aware of the situation, they might secretly deploy a submersible to recover the nuclear weapons. If these weapons were to fall into the wrong hands, it could trigger a major crisis. As a result, the team is pressed to at least remove the warheads from the nuclear stockpile. While grappling with these urgent issues, another serious problem emerges. A massive storm is forming as they enter the sea. The storm generates towering waves that crash violently against the ship. The large vessel above them, their sole means of support, begins to take on water, and the chains securing it start to sink. The crane hanging from the ship is at risk of falling, threatening to crash down onto the submarine below. This potential disaster sends shockwaves of fear through the team. In a frantic attempt to escape the storm, everyone struggles to find safety. But the storm's force is overwhelming. The crane is precariously positioned, and the situation is becoming increasingly dire. As they attempt to navigate through this turmoil, they encounter another challenge. The boat and crane are linked by a rope. If the crane were to collapse, the tightening of the rope would make their escape efforts even more complicated. As the storm grows stronger, the rope starts to fray, shocking everyone on board. The storm's force is so immense that water begins to splash into the submarine, causing further chaos. The crew desperately tries to find a way out, but the submarine is significantly damaged. Oxygen cylinders have fallen into the ocean, and many essential systems have failed, leaving the crew in a state of confusion and panic. One of the crew members, wearing a mask, comforts his teammates by saying, "Stay here, I'll go check outside." He steps out to evaluate the situation. As they examine their surroundings, they spot a dazzling light in the water. Upon closer inspection, they realize it resembles a jellyfish, but it is much larger and surrounded by smaller jellyfish. Intrigued, they reach out to touch it, and find that it has a liquid-like consistency. Inspired, they decide to take photographs with their camera. However, the creature swiftly evades the camera's focus. Unlike ordinary jellyfish, this organism appears to be alive and interacts with them in a way that is both captivating and unsettling. While observing it, they notice that it somewhat resembles a sea lion, but they quickly dismiss that comparison, instead feeling as if they are encountering an alien presence in the water. Matthias, one of the crew members, attempts to redirect their attention, emphasizing that their mission is the priority and urging them not to get sidetracked. He warns them against disturbing the creature. Meanwhile, she is inexplicably drawn toward the light. As the scene transitions, another member of the C team is introduced. This individual is responsible for managing a warhead that accompanies the nuclear weapon, and he becomes profoundly disturbed by his findings. He realizes that if the warhead were to explode, the destruction could be up to 5 times greater than that of the Hiroshima bomb. In his frustration, he confronts the team, demanding to know why they acted without his consent. As the leader of the C team, he feels blindsided by their decisions. Had they communicated their plans, he would have ensured that everything was handled with discretion. The thought that this bomb might fall into Russian hands sends him into a state of panic, fully aware of the gravity of the situation. As tensions rise, the team becomes fractured. Then she and her group find themselves in conflict with the C team, each side grappling with their own fears and responsibilities. As they struggle to breathe in the choppy waters, the urgency of their mission intensifies, and the stakes grow increasingly high. Exhausted and adrift in the water, the crew finds themselves trapped in a small section of their ship, which is quickly filling with water. Suddenly, the water begins to take on a snake-like shape, slithering into the compartment where she is resting. Startled by the sight of this serpentine entity, she wakes up. As she regains her composure, she and the rest of the crew look at the creature with a mix of trepidation and curiosity. To their surprise, the snake-like figure soon morphs, altering its form in a way that captivates everyone present. As she witnesses this transformation, her initial fear gives way to amusement, and she begins to laugh at the unusual sight. Fascinated by the creature's behavior, she playfully imitates the snake, opening and closing her mouth in a teasing manner. In response, the creature mimics her actions, creating a moment of connection that leads the crew to consider the possibility that this might be an extraterrestrial being trying to communicate with them. The crew closely observes the snake-like entity as it moves through the water, leading them to another room. The crew follows the entity, hoping to understand its intentions. However, the entity does not seem to notice their presence. Just as the crew begins to feel safe, the C-Team enters the area, drawn by the sounds of the commotion. When the C-Team sees the creature, it transforms back into a fluid, water-like form, leaving them astonished. In that moment, she recognizes the significance of what they have witnessed, an alien presence in the sea that appears to be trying to convey a message related to the nuclear weapons they are investigating. The implications of this realization weigh heavily on her mind, prompting her to contemplate the meaning behind the creature's actions and what it might reveal about their situation. She is deeply troubled by the potential implications of this encounter with the mysterious, shape-shifting entity. Simultaneously, the C-Team arrives, intent on removing the machinery from the area. One member separates from the rest of the C-Team and enters a room, carefully observing his surroundings. This leads to a confrontation with She, who defends herself against him. The C-Team attempts to negotiate with him for permission to proceed, but his demeanor has become unsettling and erratic. The intense pressure of the ocean has significantly affected this C-Team member, altering his mental state. His behavior is reminiscent of characters from childhood stories. The character's mental strain is evident as he seems to inappropriately laugh, potentially as a coping mechanism. This condition, which could be likened to the bends, is a serious illness that can occur from rapid changes in pressure. In a moment of frustration, he decides to venture into the submarine alone, prompting others to follow him. As tensions rise, the two sides engage in a struggle. The C-Team makes their way into a chamber known as the Abyss, the deepest part of the ocean, where the pressure is far greater than in shallower waters. As he operates the submarine, the pressure outside increases dramatically. The surrounding rocks begin to collapse, causing the submarine to be compromised. In a catastrophic turn of events, the glass of the submarine shatters and he is thrown into the water, drowning as the nuclear weapon he was carrying also plummets into the depths of the abyss. Witnesses are left in shock, unable to comprehend the disaster unfolding around them. In the turmoil, they realize that escaping the situation is nearly impossible due to the immense pressure. The submarine itself is caught against a rock, exacerbating their perilous predicament. They are at a loss for what to do next as water continues to flood the ship. With the situation growing dire, the only option left is to shoot a flare for help. However, only one person can take this action, and the plan is to entrust it to her. Unfortunately, she is unable to swim. In a desperate move, he decides to take the seat himself, determined to save her and bring her back to safety. Yet there's a significant challenge. The pressure of the sea is immense, and even a brief delay could be fatal. Fear grips him as he prepares to shoot the flare. As the water rises, she manages to grasp his hand, and together they swim toward the main ship. Then he fights to keep her afloat, but she struggles to breathe and begins to panic. In a moment of desperation, she grabs an oxygen cylinder and places it over her nose. Despite his efforts, she remains unresponsive. The other crew members gather around, trying to help, and they attempt CPR in a last-ditch effort to revive her. But as time passes, it becomes increasingly clear that she may not survive. The crew is devastated. They had hoped she would pull through, as she was deeply loved by him. As they grapple with the loss, they prepare to take her body to their quarters. The tension between him and her had previously been fraught with conflict, but now there is a bittersweet sense of romance and reconciliation. They had come to understand each other better, and in a way they reunited as husband and wife, even in this tragic moment. However, their ordeal is not yet over. They still need to deal with the nuclear weapon, which is now trapped in the abyss. The gravity of their situation weighs heavily on them, and they must find a way to resolve the imminent threat posed by the weapon. If the nuclear weapon explodes today, it could lead to global devastation. Therefore, they must find a way to detonate it safely. When it becomes clear who will take on this critical task, one volunteer steps forward. He prepares by equipping himself with an oxygenator and fluorocarbon, and filling his suit with the necessary supplies. However, he soon realizes that while wearing the suit, communication will be impossible. He won't be able to speak. To address this issue, they implemented a solution. The suit is equipped with a typing interface. Should he need to communicate, he can type messages that will be displayed on a monitor screen, allowing him to convey important information without the need for verbal communication. This innovation is crucial for coordinating their efforts and ensuring everyone remains informed during the mission. Now, the team's preparing to send him into the sea, fully aware of the dangers involved. There is a palpable fear among everyone, as the likelihood of entering such depths and returning alive seems almost impossible. Nevertheless, they support his decision to go, refusing to give up hope. Dressed in his suit, he makes his descent into the water, equipped with a communication device to stay in touch with the team above. As he plunges into the depths, there are moments of connection and shared feelings. He begins to communicate with them, but soon after entering, he experiences difficulties. The immense pressure of the ocean makes it challenging for him to breathe, causing his lungs and arteries to feel constricted. Despite these struggles, he fights to maintain control and continues his descent. However, he soon loses communication with his team, which sends waves of fear through him. In his distress, he attempts to reach out, sending messages to reassure them that he is safe. They respond with encouragement, helping him feel a bit more at ease. After about half an hour of travel, he finally spots the warhead. With determination, he begins to cut the wires to defuse the bomb, feeling a surge of happiness at this critical moment. However, he soon realizes that his oxygen supply is running dangerously low. He knows he cannot ascend immediately, as it would take another half hour to return to the surface. With only 5 minutes of breathable air left, he makes a life-altering decision. He messages his team, informing them that he intends to remain where he is. His team urges him to come back, expressing their concern, especially for his wife, who would be devastated by the outcome. They implore him to lighten his suit to make the ascent easier. In response, he acknowledges the gravity of the situation, stating that he understands this may be a one-way ticket. He reflects on the forgiveness his wife has offered him, which brings him to tears. While sitting in the depths of the sea, he becomes aware that time is running out. His heart heavy with the impending loss, he resigns himself to the reality that they may not survive this ordeal. Suddenly, a bright light appears in front of him, revealing a creature with 7 heads. This sight indicates to him that the number 7 holds significance. As he reaches out his hand to the creature, it reciprocates by grasping his hand. However, he suddenly pauses and is drawn elsewhere. The light leads him to an underwater city, where he stops to take in his surroundings. In this place, he notices a large screen displaying various images. The screen depicts humanity's actions throughout history, showcasing the destruction caused by events such as the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The visuals illustrate the extensive damage that has been inflicted upon the world, and he comes here with a profound understanding of these events. He realizes that the aliens have come to save humanity because people continue to harm themselves. Their mission is to warn humans about their destructive behaviors. This plan was orchestrated to ensure he would eventually find his way to the sea to communicate with them. As he absorbs this information, he understands that the aliens, having defused their own weapons, are concerned about the potential use of American weapons against other nations. He ponders whether those countries have been affected, especially considering that 7 nations, including those in Africa, have suffered as a result of these actions. In addition to these revelations, he sees images of people enjoying themselves at the beach, unaware of the looming danger. Suddenly, a massive wave appears on the screen. It's a tsunami. The impending disaster sends shockwaves of fear through everyone depicted. As the tsunami approaches, it becomes increasingly clear that this is a warning from the aliens. The message is unmistakable. If humanity continues on its current path, they will face catastrophic consequences. The aliens are conveying that if these destructive behaviors persist, the Earth itself may cease to exist. This warning underscores the urgency of their mission and the need for change. In this moment, he comprehends the gravity of the situation and the importance of heeding the aliens' message. He realizes that both he and his team must take action to avoid the impending disaster. Suddenly, the screen lights up with a series of visuals. Then he types his wife's name, causing everyone to gasp in disbelief. This revelation seems impossible. However, against the odds, he has managed to survive. As the tsunami begins to recede, he remains alive. His ship, now resembling a vessel from a sci-fi movie, floats in the middle of the sea, appearing almost like a space station. This advanced technology is a product of the aliens, who have the ability to manipulate water. They have successfully established communication with humans, and now all the submarines have surfaced in the ocean, leaving onlookers astonished. When he emerges from the submarine, he makes his way to the opposite side, where he is joyfully reunited with his wife. They embrace and share a tender kiss, celebrating their reunion amidst the chaos. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our recap. Like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.